Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Titan, staring at the massive view screen that showed the endless stars. He had been commander of Earth's deep space fleet for 8 years now. Most days were quiet. Ships came and went from the orbital stations. Cargo moved between colonies. Nothing exciting ever happened. That changed when the communications officer turned around with wide eyes. "Sir, we're getting a signal," Lieutenant Amy Brooks said. Her voice shook a little. "It's not from any human ship or station." Morrison walked over to her station. In all his years of service, they had never received contact from alien life. Earth scientists had been looking for signs of other intelligent species for centuries. It seemed they had found humanity first. "Put it through." "The translation computers," Morrison ordered. "Let's see what we can make of it." The signal came through as a series of strange sounds and patterns. The computer worked for several minutes, trying to make sense of the alien language. Finally, words began to appear on the screen. Captain Lisa Carter, Morrison's tactical advisor, read the message aloud. "Greetings to the species of the third planet. We're the Galactic Cooperative. We come in peace, but we need your help." Morrison felt his heart rate increase. First contact with aliens, and they were asking for help. This was not how anyone had imagined it would happen. The message continued. "We know you call yourselves humans. We know your world is what you call a death world. We need to speak with your leaders immediately. Great danger threatens all life in this galaxy." "Death world?" Carter asked. "What do they mean by that?" Before Morrison could answer, more of the message came through. The translation computer was getting better at understanding the alien language with each word. "We are 12 species working together for peace and knowledge. We have watched your world from far away. We know that your planet is dangerous. Storms that can destroy cities, earthquakes that split the ground, animals that hunt and kill. Most worlds in the galaxy are safe and peaceful. Yours is not. This makes your people different from us, Lieutenant." Commander Ryan Brooks, the intelligence officer, looked up from his screen. "Sir, I'm detecting multiple ships on long-range sensors. They're not human designs. They're just sitting there, waiting." Morrison nodded. The aliens had come in force, but they were not attacking. They really did seem to want to talk. The message kept coming. "The machines have awakened. Call them the Devourers. Turn planets into metal and energy for themselves. They grow stronger with each world they destroy. 3 star systems are already gone. Billions of lives lost." Carter grabbed Morrison's arm. "Jake, if these machines are that dangerous..." "Keep listening," Morrison said quietly. "We have great technology. Our ships can travel faster than light. We can cure diseases and extend life. We can terraform worlds and create wonders. But we do not know how to fight. We have lived in peace for thousands of years. We have no weapons. Of war, no soldiers. No understanding of conflict." The communication paused, then continued with what sounded like desperation. "Your species is different. You grew up fighting to survive. Your history is full of wars and battles. You understand tactics and strategy. You have weapons and warriors. The Devourers are coming to your galaxy. They will reach your world in 6 months. We need your help to stop them. Will you meet with us?" Morrison looked around the bridge. The officer was staring at him, waiting for his decision. This was far beyond anything they had trained for. "Send a response," Morrison ordered. "Tell them we will meet with them. But we choose the location." As the communications officer worked to send the reply, Morrison called for his senior staff to gather in the war room. Within minutes, Carter, Brooks, and the other department heads were seated around the large table. "Opinions?" Morrison asked. "It could be a trap," Brooks said. "Maybe they're not as peaceful as they claim. Or maybe they're telling the truth," Carter replied. "And if they are, we're looking at a threat that could destroy everything we know." Commander Sarah Mills, the fleet operations officer, spoke up. "Sir, if what they're saying is true, these Devourer machines sound like something out of our worst nightmares. Self-replicating, adaptive, consuming entire worlds. But we have advantages," Carter added. "They said it themselves. We're from a death world. We know how to fight. They don't. Morrison stood up and walked to the large window that looked out at the fleet. Hundreds of ships floated in formation around the Titan. Most were exploration vessels or cargo haulers, but scattered. Among them were the warships, destroyers, cruisers, and battleships that had been built just in case humanity ever needed to defend itself. "Send orders to all fleet commanders," Morrison said. "I want every combat-capable ship ready for action within 24 hours. Full weapons. Checks. Full crew complement. Full supplies." Sir Mills asked, "Are we going to help them?" Morrison turned back to face his officers. "We're going to meet with them first. Learn everything we can about these devourers, then we'll decide." Paused, looking each of them in the eye. "But if these machines are real, and if they're coming for Earth, then we'll do what humans do best. We'll fight back." The next few hours were filled with activity. Messages went out to every human colony and station. The alien ships moved closer, but kept their distance as promised. Scientists and linguists worked around the clock to improve communication with the visitors. As Morrison prepared for the most important meeting in human history, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. The universe, it seemed, needed humanity's help to survive. Commander Sarah Mills stood in the massive hangar bay of the orbital shipyard watching the impossible sight before her. Ships that had been sleeping for decades were coming to life. The used Defiance, humanity's most powerful battleship, hummed with energy as its systems activated one by one. All power cores online. Major Alex Turner reported from the Defiance's bridge. Weapons systems checking out. "This old girl is ready for war." Mills smiled grimly. The Defiance had been built 20 years ago when Earth's leaders feared they might face hostile aliens someday. Now that day had finally come, just not in the way anyone expected. Chief Engineer Katie Ross wiped sweat from her forehead as she climbed out of an access panel. She had been working for 18 hours straight, installing alien shield technology into human ships. The process was not easy, but it was working. "The power requirements are incredible," Ross told Mills. "But if we can make this work, our ships will be twice as strong as before." Across the hangar, strange alien visitors watched the humans work. Science Officer Veltar was one of them. He looked like a tall, thin person, but with blue skin and large black eyes. He had been studying human behavior for days now, and what he saw frightened him. "They prepare for war like it is natural to them," Veltar said to his companion through their translation device. "Look how quickly they move, how efficiently they work. These Deathworlders are born for conflict." Danny Foster was already aboard his carrier, the UES Liberty. His ship held dozens of smaller fighter craft and their pilots. Lieutenant Amy Clark and Lieutenant Steve Palmer were among the best pilots in the fleet. They had trained for years in simulations, never knowing if they would ever use their skills in real combat. "How many fighters can we launch?" His operations officer, 64 at full capacity, sir, came the reply. "All pilots are reporting ready for action." Foster nodded. The aliens had shown them images of the Devourer machines. They were massive, constantly changing shape, and seemed impossible to stop. But Foster had faith in his pilots. Humans had always found ways to fight against impossible odds. Dr. Helen Wade was in her laboratory, studying pieces of destroyed Devourer machines that the aliens had brought. The fragments were unlike anything she had ever seen. They looked like metal, but they moved and shifted when she was not looking directly at them. "These things are not just machines," Wade told her assistant. "They are alive in some way. They learn. They adapt. Every time someone fights them, they get better at fighting back." The implications were terrifying. How do you defeat an enemy that becomes stronger every time you attack it? General Bobby Lee was dealing with a different problem. The aliens had no concept of ground combat. When Lee tried to explain the idea of soldiers fighting on a planet's surface, the alien representatives looked confused and horrified. "You send your people to fight and die on the ground?" asked Ambassador Zethkari. "Why not just evacuate the planet?" "Because sometimes you cannot run," Lee explained patiently. Sometimes you have to stand and fight, or everything you care about will be destroyed. The cultural differences were enormous, but both species were learning from each other. The aliens showed humans technology that seemed like magic. Shields that could stop any weapon. Engines that could cross the galaxy in days. Medical devices that could heal almost any injury. In return, humans taught the aliens about tactics, strategy, and the harsh realities of war. Captain Tony Martinez spent hours explaining how to coordinate attacks between multiple ships. The aliens were amazed by concepts like flanking maneuvers and decoy attacks. You think like predators, one alien observer noted. You see weakness and exploit it. You plan many moves ahead. This is not how we think. That is exactly why you need us, Martinez replied. The first joint training exercise was a disaster. Alien ships moved in perfect formation, following precise patterns. Human ships seemed to move randomly, breaking formation whenever they felt like it. The alien commanders were confused and frustrated. Why do they not follow orders? Asked Captain Valenix, an alien ship commander. They are following orders, explained Captain Lisa Carter. But human tactics require individual judgment. Pilot must be ready to change the plan when circumstances change. It took days of practice, but slowly the mixed fleets began to work together. Alien precision combined with human unpredictability created something new and powerful. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks was analyzing intelligence data about the Devourer fleet. What he found was not encouraging. They have over 1,000 ships, Brooks reported to Admiral Morrison. Each one is the size of a small moon. They consume everything in their path and use the materials to build more ships. How long until they reach human space? Morrison asked. For months. Sir, maybe less. Morrison felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, not just for humanity, but for all the peaceful species in the galaxy. The aliens had placed their trust in Earth's warriors, and he could not let them down. Double the work shifts, Morrison ordered. Get every ship ready for combat. Install as much alien technology as we can handle. And start preparing our pilots for the fight of their lives. As the days passed, the combined fleet grew stronger. Human aggression merged with alien technology. Ancient warships came online. With new weapons and shields, fighter pilots trained in alien technology, while alien crews learned human tactics. The peaceful galaxy was learning to make war. And at the center of it all, humanity prepared to do what it did best. Fight back against the darkness and protect everything worth saving in the universe. Captain Tony Martinez gripped the arms of his command chair as the UES Ranger dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The Kepler 442 system spread out before them, and what he saw made his blood run cold. 3 massive shapes moved through space. Near the 4th planet, it looked like floating cities made of dark metal, constantly shifting and changing shape. These were the Devourers, and they were already destroying everything in their path. Contact Admiral Morrison, Martinez ordered. Tell him we have found them. But Martinez knew the main fleet was still hours away. The civilian ships trying to escape from Kepler 442 did not have hours. They barely had minutes. Lieutenant Colonel Nina Hughes led her fighter squadron out of the Ranger's small hangar bay. Her 12 ships looked tiny next to the Devourer constructs, but she had trained for this moment her entire career. Remember what we learned, Hughes said over the radio. These things adapt to everything they see. Do not use the same attack pattern twice. Stay unpredictable. The first Devourer machine noticed the human ships and began to change. Parts of its hull moved and shifted, forming what looked like weapon ports. Hughes watched in horror as the machine literally rebuilt itself to fight them. All ships attack pattern Alpha, Hughes called out. Hit them fast and hard. The human fighters dove toward the enemy, their weapons blazing. The energy beams struck the Devourer's hull, but instead of causing damage, the metal simply absorbed the energy and grew stronger. It is learning from our attacks, reported Lieutenant Amy Clark. The same hits are doing less damage each time. Hughes cursed under her breath. The aliens had warned them about this, but seeing it happen was different than hearing about it. How do you fight an enemy that gets stronger every time you hurt it? Switch to kinetic weapons, Hughes ordered. use missiles and railguns. Make it adapt to something completely different. The fighters changed tactics, firing solid projectiles instead of energy beams. This time the Devourer seemed confused. Its hull had adapted to absorb energy, but the physical impacts were causing real damage. But the machine was learning fast. Hughes watched as it began growing armor plating exactly where the missiles were hitting. Within minutes, even the kinetic weapons were becoming useless. Commander Pete Davis arrived in his experimental corvette, the U.S. Wolverine. The ship was smaller and faster than anything else in the human fleet. Davis had one advantage that the larger ships did not have. Could think and move faster than the enemy could adapt. "Nina, keep them busy," Davis said over the radio. "I'm going to try something crazy." Davis pushed his ship to maximum speed and flew directly at the largest Devourer. At the last second, he fired all his weapons and then spun his ship in a wild spiral, avoiding the enemy's return fire by pure instinct rather than any planned maneuver. The Devourer tried to predict where Davis would go next. But human intuition was impossible to calculate. Davis attacked from a different angle each time, never following any pattern that a machine could understand. "It is working," Hughes reported. "The big one cannot figure out where Pete will attack next." But their small victory was interrupted by a new horror. The second Devourer had been watching the battle, learning from what happened to its companion. When Hughes's fighters tried the same random tactics on it, the machine was ready. This one adapted faster, Clark reported as her fighter barely escaped destruction. It learned from watching the other fight. The situation was getting desperate. More civilian ships were trying to escape the system, but the third Devourer was moving to intercept them. Captain Grace Kelly commanded one of the evacuation escorts, a small destroyer called the UES Valiant. Kelly looked at her tactical display and made a decision that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. Her ship was damaged and running low on ammunition. The civilian transport she was protecting carried 10,000 refugees, including families with children. "All crew abandon ship," Kelly ordered. "Get to the escape pods now." "Captain, what are you doing?" her first officer asked. "Something these machines will never expect," Kelly replied, as her crew evacuated. Kelly pointed her ship directly at the third Devourer and pushed the engines to maximum power. The machine seemed confused by this behavior. Why would anyone deliberately crash their ship? The Devourer tried to adapt its defenses, but it could not understand the concept of sacrifice. Its calculations showed that Kelly's action made no logical sense. There was no tactical advantage to destroying your own ship, but Kelly was not thinking about tactics. She was thinking about the children on that transport ship. She was thinking about doing what was right, regardless of the cost. The UES Valiant struck the Devourer at full speed. The explosion tore through both ships, but the civilian transport escaped safely. 10,000 lives were saved by one human's willingness to give up everything. The battle continued for another hour, until Admiral Morrison arrived with the main fleet. By then, Hughes and Davis had managed to destroy the first Devourer using pure unpredictability, but at a terrible cost. Half the human fighters were gone. Many good people had died. Dr. Mike Thompson was already analyzing the battle data when the shooting stopped. What he found changed everything they thought they knew about fighting the Devourers. "The machines can adapt to any logical strategy," Thompson explained to Morrison. "But they cannot process human emotions. They do not understand concepts like sacrifice, honor, or fighting for something greater than yourself." Morrison looked at the wreckage floating around them. Good people had died today, but their sacrifice had revealed something important. The Devourers could copy human weapons and tactics, but they could never copy the human spirit. "Send this data to all ships," Morrison ordered, "and prepare for the real war. These were just scouts. The main fleet is still coming." As the human ships regrouped and tended to their wounded, word of the battle spread across the galaxy. Peaceful alien species had watched in amazement as humans fought with a ferocity they had never imagined possible. And somewhere in the depths of space, the main Devourer fleet received data from the destroyed scouts. The machines analyzed the new information, trying to understand these strange new enemies who fought with such illogical passion, the Devourers had encountered their first taste of human warfare. They did not yet understand what they were truly facing. Admiral Morrison stood before the largest gathering of ships in galactic history. The combined fleet stretched for millions of miles through space, with vessels from 13 different species working together for the first time. At the center of it all was his new flagship, the UES Constitution, a ship that had become a symbol of cooperation between humans and aliens. "The Deathworld Doctrine is our only hope," Morrison explained to the mixed crew on his bridge. "We fight like humans, but we use alien technology to do it better." Commander Jack Davis nodded from his position at the tactical station. His crew included humans, the tall blue Gentari, the aquatic deep swim, and the crystal-like Shard High. Working together had not been easy, but they had learned to understand each other. "Sir, the Devourers have adapted again," Davis reported. "Our scouts report they are now using tactics similar to what we used at Kepler 442. Morrison was not surprised. The machine intelligence was learning from every battle, becoming more dangerous each time they fought. But humans were learning too, and they were learning faster. Captain Lucy Stone was proof of that. Her stealth destroyer, the UES Shadow, had been modified with the best alien cloaking technology. For weeks, she had been operating behind enemy lines, gathering intelligence that no one else could obtain. "I found their manufacturing centers," Stone reported during the morning briefing. "They are building new ships inside captured asteroids. Each facility can produce a dozen Devourers every day." The numbers were terrifying, but Stone had more information. "The good news is that they all follow the same basic design. If we can figure out how to hurt one, we can hurt them all." Major Chris Moore had been working on exactly that problem. His weapons development team had created something they called kamikaze protocols, guided missiles that flew like human pilots, making random and unpredictable movements that the Devourers could not calculate. "The missiles think like fighter pilots," Moore explained to a group of alien engineers. "They make decisions based on instinct rather than logic. The machines cannot adapt to something they cannot understand." Colonel Diane Baker was having more success training alien crews to fight like humans. The peaceful species had trouble understanding concepts like aggressive tactics and acceptable losses, but some were learning. "The Gentari are natural fighters once they understand the goal," Baker told Morrison. "They just needed to learn that. Sometimes you must risk everything to save everything." The breakthrough came when Captain Roy Jenkins made a discovery that changed the entire war. His deep space reconnaissance ship had been tracking Devourer movements for weeks, looking for patterns in their behavior. "Admiral, I found something incredible," Jenkins reported from the edge of known space. "There is a signal coming from somewhere else, somewhere outside normal space. I think it is controlling all the Devourers." Morrison felt his heart race. If the machines had a central command, that meant they might have a weakness. "Can you locate the source?" "That is the problem, sir. It is coming from what the aliens call a pocket dimension, a place that exists next to our reality, but separate from it." Morrison immediately called for his best scientists and the alien technical experts. Within hours, they had confirmed Jenkins's discovery. The Devourer fleet was being controlled by something hidden in a dimension that normal ships could not reach. "We have the technology to enter pocket dimensions," explained Dr. Yalseth, one of the alien scientists. "But the journey is very dangerous. Only a small ship could make the trip, and it would be a one-way voyage." "How small?" Morrison asked. "Perhaps one ship, maybe two at most. And they would need to carry a weapon powerful enough to destroy whatever is controlling the Devourers." Dr. Carol Lewis had been listening to the conversation with growing excitement. She was humanity's best physicist, and she had been working on a theoretical weapon for months. "I can build a quantum disruptor," Lewis announced. "It would collapse the entire pocket dimension, destroying anything inside it. But the weapon would need to be delivered at point-blank range." Morrison understood what that meant. Someone would have to fly into the pocket dimension, find the Devourer control center, and destroy it from close range. They would not be coming back. "I will do it," said Captain Ben Carter. His ship, the UES Prometheus II, was fast and tough, enough to make the journey. Carter had volunteered before Morrison could even ask. "Ben, you understand this is a suicide mission?" Morrison said quietly. "I understand, sir. But if we do not try this, the Devourers will eventually destroy everything. My life is a small price to pay for saving the galaxy. The plan required perfect timing. The main fleet would attack the Devourer Armada, drawing their attention and forcing them to adapt to new human tactics. While the machines were busy learning how to fight the fleet, Carter would slip into the pocket dimension and destroy their command center. Admiral Tracy Scott and General Bob Wright worked together to coordinate the different species in the fleet. Each group had learned human tactics, but they applied them in their own unique ways. "The Deep Swim will attack from below," Scott explained during the final briefing. "Their ships can move through space like submarines through water. Will provide long-range support with their crystal weapons. The Jantari will lead the frontal assault. And the humans?" asked Ambassador Zethkari. "We will do what we do best," Morrison replied. "We'll adapt to whatever happens and keep fighting until we win or die trying." As the fleet prepared for the final battle, word of the plan spread throughout the galaxy. Billions of beings from dozens of worlds waited to see if the Deathworlders could save them all, in the weapons bay of the Prometheus II. Dr. Lewis made final adjustments to the quantum disruptor. The device was beautiful and terrible, capable of unmaking reality itself within a small area. "Are you sure this will work?" Carter asked. "The mathematics are sound," Lewis replied. "But we have never tested anything like this before. You will be the first person to use a quantum disruptor in combat." Carter smiled grimly. "Humans are always the first to try dangerous things. That is what makes us human." The countdown began. In a few hours, the largest battle in galactic history would decide the fate of all intelligent life. The Devourers had superior numbers and adaptive technology, but they had never faced the full fury of awakened Deathworlders, fighting for everything they loved. The battle began with the roar of 1,000 ships launching into combat. Admiral Morrison watched from the bridge of the UES Constitution as the largest fleet in galactic history charged toward the Devourer Armada. The enemy machines filled space like a dark cloud, their massive forms shifting and changing as they prepared to fight. "All ships attack Pattern Omega," Morrison commanded. "Show them what Deathworlders can do." Captain Ben Carter piloted the UES Prometheus II away from the main battle, heading toward the coordinates where the pocket dimension portal would open. Behind him, the quantum disruptor hummed with deadly energy. Dr. Carol Lewis had built the most powerful weapon ever created, and Carter was about to use it to save the galaxy. The main battle was unlike anything the universe had ever seen. Admiral Tracy Scott led the Jantari ships in a frontal assault, their crews fighting with the patience and determination they had learned from humans. The tall blue aliens had embraced the concept of acceptable losses. Understanding that some must die so that others could live, General Bob Wright coordinated the deep swim attacks from below. The aquatic aliens moved their ships like schools of fish, surrounding individual devourers and attacking from all sides. Their fluid movements confused the machine intelligence, which could not predict their flowing formations. The Shardhai provided covering fire with their crystal weapons, beams, of pure light that cut through devourer holes. The crystalline beings had learned human persistence, never giving up even when their shots seemed to do little damage. But it was the human ships that truly terrified the Devourers. Captain Danny Foster launched wave after wave of fighters from the UES Liberty. Lieutenant Amy Clark and Lieutenant Steve Palmer led their squadrons in attacks that made no logical sense. They flew in spirals, loops, and random patterns that no computer could calculate. "The machines are trying to adapt," reported Commander Jack Davis from the Constitution. "But our people keep changing tactics faster than they can learn." Morrison smiled grimly. This was exactly what they had planned. Keep the Devourers busy trying to understand human chaos, while Carter completed his mission. Carter's ship reached the portal coordinates, just as the alien scientists opened the gateway to the pocket dimension. Space seemed to tear apart, revealing a swirling tunnel of light and energy. Carter could see strange shapes moving in the distance, things that should not exist in normal reality. Portal is stable, reported Dr. Yalaseth over the radio. You have maybe 10 minutes before it collapses. Carter pushed his ship into the tunnel. Reality twisted around him as he entered the pocket dimension. Colors that had no names flowed past his view screen. Sounds that could not exist filled his ears. But Carter focused on his mission and flew deeper into the impossible space. Back in normal space, the battle was reaching its climax. The Devourers had adapted to many human tactics, but new ones kept appearing. Major Chris Moore's kamikaze missiles struck target after target. Their unpredictable flight paths impossible to defend against. Commander Kevin Murphy was the last pilot left from his squadron. His fighter was damaged and running low on ammunition, but he kept flying. The young pilot had learned something important during the battle. Individual humans might fall, but humanity itself never surrendered. All fighters, follow my lead. Murphy called out as he dove toward the largest Devourer construct. One more run, and we can break through their defenses. The remaining fighters followed Murphy in a desperate charge. Half of them were destroyed by enemy fire, but the survivors punched through the Devourer's defensive line. This created the opening that Admiral Morrison had been waiting for. All ships, concentrate fire on the command vessel, Morrison ordered. Hit it with everything we have. Meanwhile, Carter had found what he was looking for. Deep in the pocket dimension was a massive structure that looked like a twisted version of a space station. Energy flowed from it in all directions, and Carter could feel the signals it was sending to control the Devourer fleet. This is it, Carter said into his radio, though he doubted anyone could hear him across dimensions. The source of their power. Carter armed the quantum disruptor and flew directly toward the alien structure. Defense systems tried to stop him, but they were designed to fight logical opponents. Carter flew like a human pilot, using instinct and courage instead of calculated tactics. The structure's weapons could not hit a target that moved with pure human determination. Carter reached the center of the command station and activated the quantum disruptor. The weapon began to charge, building up energy that would tear apart the fabric of reality itself. Carter had 30 seconds before the device would explode. He thought about his family on Earth. He thought about all the peaceful alien species who had asked for humanity's help. He thought about Captain Grace Kelly and all the other humans who had already given their lives in this war. For the Deathworld, Carter said quietly as the disruptor reached full charge. The explosion was beyond description. The quantum disruptor unraveled the pocket dimension from the inside out, destroying everything within it. The command structure, the control signals, and Carter himself vanished as reality collapsed. In normal space, the effect was immediate. The Devourer ships suddenly stopped moving in coordination. Their perfect formations broke apart as each machine was forced to think for itself. Without central control, they became confused and vulnerable. Now, Morrison shouted, "Hit them while they are helpless." The combined fleet struck with everything they had: human weapons, alien technology, and desperate courage combined to tear through the Devourer armada. Ships that had seemed invincible minutes before were now just scattered metal. Floating in space, Commander Murphy made the final attack run. His damaged fighter somehow surviving long enough to deliver the killing blow to the last major Devourer construct. As enemy ships exploded around him, Murphy felt a fierce pride in what humanity had accomplished. The battle was over. The Devourer threat was ended forever. In the aftermath, representatives from across the galaxy gathered to thank the humans who had saved them all. Admiral Morrison stood before the assembly, tired but victorious. "We did not fight alone," Morrison said. "Every species contributed to this victory. But I want the galaxy to remember something. When peaceful beings need protection, when hope seems lost, when the darkness threatens everything you love, call on the Deathworlders. We will answer." As Morrison finished speaking, a new message arrived from the far edge of the galaxy. Another species in trouble, another threat that needed to be stopped. Morrison looked at his fleet, scarred but still ready to fight. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "The Deathworld fleet stands ready. We are on our way." The humans had found their place in the galaxy. They were the guardians, the protectors, the ones who stood between peace and chaos. And they would never stop fighting for what was right.